Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Comix Rant Mini. I'm your host, Arvin Bautista, and this episode continues my Advent comic book calendar countdown series of episodes. We're getting close to Christmas. It is my favorite time of the year, and I love celebrating it, and I love the days leading up to it, because I have a great excuse to read my Christmas comics all over again. Christmas and holiday comics. So it's going to be a mix of this stuff. In this episode, we're going to talk about Marvel Shadows and Light issue number 1. This is one of those anthology books that came out way back. Let me see if I can find the date for this. But 1998. Yikes. I was just out of college at this time. Yeah, I'm old. And I love anthology comics. They don't really sell very well. And I love black and white comics. So this is kind of a great hybrid of those two things. And I think it feels like this was a response to Batman Black and White, which I think did really well for DC. And there was all sorts of things. I think there still are certain books that come out. Like I think Harley Quinn had like a black, white, and red. And Deadpool, I think, had something similar. And then a few years back, I think DC had like Wonder Woman Gold and Superman Blue, like all these kind of cool things to play with that motif. I'm pretty sure Mark Chiarello was the one that kind of spearheaded all that way back when. So he definitely started a trend in the comic book industry. But it's great because it's a good excuse to hire all these great artists, pump out their best stuff in only a few pages. So there wasn't too much of a pressure or a deadline or even to stick with continuity. So in this first issue, there's all sorts of people in here. There's Gene Ha, there's Bernie Wrightson, who writes his own story, Len Wein and Steve Ditko, and that's pretty big. And the story that I picked out for this episode is by Ron Marz and Brian Stelfreeze. I'll flip through some of these pages real quick for you guys so you can kind of take a look. Really cool stuff. One and dones, so even better for me, especially now that I'm older. I don't have to go back into continuity anymore. Just classic stories with really good art teams. This Bernie Wrightson one is a lot of fun. I had no idea what I was reading back in the teens. I was like, yeah, it's Bernie Wrightson. And then it kind of has like this gag at the end. But it's great now that I read it again. It's kind of just fun. It's just him having fun, which is great. Steve Ditko has a little short in here, which is kind of nuts. Pretty cool. So a lot of like heavy hitters are in this first book, right? To kind of really sell it to you. I don't have the second issue. Anyway, okay, so now we caught up to, this is the story that I think is kind of like an entry to my Advent comic book calendar countdown. And it doesn't, okay, I mean, if you read it, it doesn't specifically say Merry Christmas, or there's no like office party going on or anything like that. But it does touch on things that are pretty important to me for Christmas time. I'm Christian, so then a lot of the things that are involved in this short story are about religious themes and struggles and stuff like that. And it's really played off really well, guys. This is written by Ron Marz and drawn by the incredible Brian Stelfreeze. Around this time, I was getting into the Gaijin Studios work, and this was a group of artists that kind of had like this approach to the aesthetic with a lot of very strong blacks, spotting in all these things. And you can kind of see here. I'll flip through this real quick so you can see, and then I'll go through it. It is a nice story to share, I think, and even if you don't have access to it, I'm not going to read it to you word for word, but I'm going to sum it up for you. But look at these pages. I love black and white work that stands on its own, that leads your eye. And that's what, maybe because of what I was learning about Gaijin Studios and how they did their storytelling. Maybe that's why it kind of carried through with me. But a lot of it is also just old school American style comic book storytelling, like classic. Even in newspaper strips, it's kind of like that. Look at this panel. There's just like nothing on there. Yeah, it's great. Oh, we got some pinups here too. I didn't even realize some good looking pinups. All right, let's go back to this story. Now I can break it down for you a little bit here. I think some of the panels in this short story are actually in this. There's a book that I got called Panel Discussions and about breaking down sequential storytelling art. So I think he takes some of these pages. There's an interview with Brian Stelfreeze and how he kind of breaks down how to lead the eye. And there's some really great tricks here that he does that are just solid storytelling. So solid visual comic book storytelling. So it's cool. It's written really great. I like Laurent Marz writing here. And, there's an intro here that kind of talks about, what they were both thinking when they were doing this, story. And I guess it was kind of like a stock story that they pitched, and then it just kind of sat around for ages until this anthology hit. And what's cool is Daredevil he's in New York City in the winter time. And it's all quiet because everybody's indoors. It's cold. There's, I guess, not a lot of crime going on. So he's kind of chilling out on patrol like superheroes are. And there's a cool storytelling device here where he uses a snowflake and it drops onto the ground towards this other character, which leads you to what Daredevil is looking at. And as it drops to the ground, it also drops on the page, which is cool, but it also follows this pattern, right? It's like this reading pattern that's in sequential storytelling, and it's great. And it highlights things as you follow the snowflake. You don't have to. You can, you can see that even the way the darks are spotted, that's where you kind of go, right? He's looking at this guy, but then you also have this angle that kind of leads you back. It's just cool stuff. Even this scarf kind of leads you with these lines. It kind of goes back up, all these lines, and then it brings you back down like this. There's a lot of cool visual tricks going on. I love how, this is all very heavy black, but then he just eases up on the background here, and it's just lines. It's all just lines. It's this kind of cool looking visual. It certainly works for this story set in the wintertime. But anyway, Daredevil hears this blind man. Oops, I just spoiled it for you. But it was this old man that comes in there and he figures out this guy's blind with a lot of cues. And the writing kind of help support that. Look at this. It's cool looking with all the line work. He definitely is not afraid to put detail on there. And here too, if it's necessary. The solid blacks are still in there and they're kept in there really well. Look at this guy's face. It's like such a great face. And Stelfreeze has a certain style. It still stands out to this day. It's his own. And it's great. I don't think anybody can really quite ape it. I'm sure somebody can, just nobody really does because everybody's aping somebody else. But I love that it's his own style. And he's also a painter. And so you've probably seen a bunch of his covers on Shadow the Bat, all that kind of stuff. Great looking cathedral here. And then you can kind of spot Daredevil up here. Ta-da! So he sets up the scene right here. It's a church. Daredevil's up there. All this iconography is great because he's a devil. Daredevil. But this man is down on his luck and he hears Daredevil way up high and assumes it's an angel. He's blind. So this guy's blind. He can't see. But, this guy just is having Christmas woes and he is not happy. Life is tough. He feels, he's an old guy. All his friends are gone. His wife is dead. He has nothing, right? It's great looking lettering here, by the way. But it's a nice restrained pace. Great faces too. I mean, you really don't need much. I love how this panel's broken like this. There's no line that goes in there. To finish the panel. Anyway, so he has his moment. He lets it all out in front of this church. And there's moments of silence. And Daredevil says, maybe God has a plan for you. Right? Daredevil's Catholic. So yes, this is the perfect guy for this old man to stumble. It's perfect superhero for this old man to stumble into. Around this time, Daredevil Born Again had already been released, so there's a lot of the Catholic background of Daredevil in that story that this one is pulling off from. At least for me, because I don't think I ever really knew that he was like religious, like Daredevil was religious. And it is this kind of interesting facet, this factor of Daredevil, that maybe is not so kosher to talk about nowadays, but I really appreciated, about the character. And they kind of lean into this a lot. And it's great. So anyway, you know, the old man's like kind of lost. He's like, who the heck is talking to me from up there? And, you know, Daredevil says, I'm a friend. But at the outset, you know, he kind of shares what happens. And basically it's like some events in Born Again. And you don't have to know this. He just says, someone died in my arms. I'm also sad, right? I also feel your pain. And, you know, this is when he's like, are you an angel? And then he stands up and he's like, no, only a man. This is great imagery. Like, you know, he's like right in front of this angel. And, you know, it's like, maybe he kind of is an angel. But it's like, but no, he himself says, no, I'm just a man, which is awesome. And there's this cool action shot right here of Daredevil that just looks so great. Everything is very real. Look at this, these panels as Daredevil standing up. He's freaking scary. Like, you know, he's just like this scary, shadowy, and the way that this is in black and white looks like this naked, like sinewy kind of creature standing out, which is great. It's a great contrast to what's going on in the story. So the old man is getting, I guess, I don't know about uplifted, but like, you know, like he gets to talk to somebody that can relate. And that's exactly what he needs. He's saying he has nobody. He says from above there, right? Daredevil's talking to him from above there. Says, come closer. And there's this great panel of Daredevil jumping off the church that looks so stylized. And it's a great choice. And there's no detail. It's just speed. The read is quick. It's just, you know, it makes this sound in my head. You know, like a ninja sound that he's coming off. Like a very silent sound that he only just uses what's needed here. It's got like a very Toth approach, but it's a moment. It becomes a moment because of the way that it's rendered. That's different from all this. And then this is even better. He just pops up behind him like, whoa, Daredevil's behind me. That's not freaky. Which is great. Like, right? He says at the very beginning is no, only a man. And he does this like crazy stuff. But it's cool. It's like Daredevil, Matt Murdock, still considers himself just a man, even though he's jumping off of a cathedral that's this high. And it shows up like a ninja behind him because Daredevil is a ninja. Thank you, Frank Miller. And, you know, it basically sums up what's going on. The old man wants to be more connected, wants to feel his face, but he stops him and Daredevil just assures him, I am human. I'm just like you. And by the end of this, you also realize that Daredevil probably also needed this. He's always alone. This is like not the way to spend, in my head, Christmas. Not the way to spend Christmas by yourself hanging out with gargoyles in New York City in the cold. Right? Anyway, so it wraps up with him giving this old man his freaking Daredevil cane. This old man doesn't even know how cool it is. But anyway, the idea is Daredevil gives him his own cane. And what's great is at the end of this, you realize, especially with this blank canvas, it's the blind leading the blind. How's that for great freaking irony, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think I see this comic or this short as celebrated as I think it should be. It is absolute genius in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 pages. Absolute genius in 10 pages. And stunning. It just looks so great, guys. Anyway, so it fits my criteria. They talk about God. It's wintertime. It's got superheroes. It's Advent comic book calendar material. And it just gives me the warm and fuzzies. This is great stuff, right? Man, you know, people helping other people in need. And, you know, what better message for Christmas is there than that? Oh my gosh, I just went all Christmas on y'all. It's Christmas, man. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. I hope you guys Had a good time with this episode. Give you guys a little break from whatever is going on out there, all the stresses in life, and, take a break. Read a comic book, man. And thank you for joining me. And this is all that there is for this episode of Comix Rant Mini. I'm your host, Arvin Bautista. I will see you guys next time. We'll have more comic book. I forget the name. I keep changing it every time I say it. Comic book Christmas Advent Countdown episodes and the next few. See you guys.